Hello everybody. Today in this session we are going to discuss about the pain relieving mechanism. There are two types of mechanism for relieving the pain sensation. One is the gate control theory and another is the central pain inhibiting mechanism. So first we will discuss the gate control theory. So let's begin with the gate control theory. This theory was first proposed by the two scientists. First proposed by two scientists. One is the Meljack, and another one is the Wall. So Meljack and Wall together proposed this gate control theory mechanism in the year of 1965. According to this theory, it explained the process by which painful sensation can be disrupted by the activation of non-painful stimuli. So here basically what happens, the painful sensation will be reduced or disrupted by the activation of non-painful stimuli, or you can say non-noxious stimuli. So this non-painful stimuli, if it will activate by somehow, that will help to reduce the painful sensation or it will disrupt the painful sensation. And this is all about our gate control theory. To understand this gate control theory, we have to know the two basic ascending pathway. One is the lateral spinothalamic tract and one is the dorsal column medial lemniscal system. One is the lateral spinothalamic tract, which basically deals the pain sensation. This pain can be either fast pain or slow pain, as well as sharp pain, as well as diffuse pain. All this pain sensation is actually carried by this lateral spinothalamic tract. And second one is the dorsal column medial lemniscal system. It is also known as dorsal column DCML. So they actually carried what type of sensation? They actually carried the fine touch, then vibration sense, joint position sense, then 2-point discrimination, tactile localization, stereognosis, like this. So again, to summarize, two basic pathways are related with this gate control theory. One is the lateral spinothalamic tract, which carries the pain sensation, and one is the dorsal column medial lemniscal system, which actually carries the fine touch, vibration sense, joint position sense, 2-point discrimination, tactile localization, stereognosis type sensation. So let's draw first a schematic diagram on these two pathways. Suppose it is a midline. Here is our spinal cord, and here is our spinal cord, and it is the spinal canal. It is the level of the medulla. And here is our thalamus. So it is the thalamus. Which nuclei of the thalamus actually receive the ascending sensation, which carried by this lateral spinothalamic tract and the dorsal column medial lemniscal system? It is the ventro-posterolateral nuclei of the thalamus. And here it is our cerebral cortex. Now, how this fiber actually traverses through these areas? Let's begin. First, the pain sensation will start from the peripheral receptor, that is known as the free nerve ending. So free nerve ending is the receptor for the pain sensation. It carries by the A delta and C fiber and enter into the spinal cord via the dorsal root and cross to the opposite side, then go upwards up to the thalamus, up to the medulla, from where it will produce lateral lemniscal column. This is known as lateral lemniscal column, and end up into the ventroposterolateral nuclei of the thalamus, from where it will end up in the cerebral cortex in three areas. In three areas. What are those three areas? 1, 2, 3. Here 1 means the primary somatosensory area. 3, 1, 2. It receives pain perception. It receives pain perception. So pain perception will be received by the primary somatosensory area. Number 2 is the insular cortex. Insular cortex. It basically receives which type of sensation? Autonomic responses. So autonomic responses such as heart rate, blood pressure increment, these are actually sensed by the insular cortex. And third one is the limbic cortex or limbic system. Limbic system. So emotional component of the pain sensation is actually received by this or sensed by this limbic system. So emotional component of the pain sensation, they actually received by this limbic system. So again, from starting from the free nerve ending, the fiber is the A delta and the C fiber. They carries the pain sensation. A delta carries fast pain, C fiber carries the slow pain or dull pain. Fast pain and sharp pain carried by this A delta fiber and reach into the posterior horn. At the level of the substantia gelatinosa of the Rolando, it throws the neurotransmitter such as glutamate and the substance P. Glutamate will be released during the fast pain or sharp pain sensation carried by the A delta fiber, and substance P neurotransmitter will be released by the C fiber when the pain will be dull or diffuse type. And this is the first order neuron. And from the substantia gelatinosa of the Rolando, the second order neuron will start and it will go upwards. It will go upwards and up to the medulla. From the medulla, the fiber will produce the lateral lemniscal pathway. This lateral lemniscal pathway eventually end up into the ventroposterolateral nuclei of the thalamus. From there up to the cerebral cortex, this is the third order neuron. So third order neuron will be ended up in the cerebral cortex in three areas. One is the primary somatosensory area 312, which receive the pain perception. Then second area is the insular cortex, which actually receive the autonomic response senses like increase in the heart rate, increase in the blood pressure, as increased pain sensation ultimately lead to increment in the heart rate as well as increase in the blood pressure and also the body temperature increment. So this sensation can be received by this insular cortex. And limbic system, third one, which actually receive the emotional component of the pain sensation. So this is all about our lateral spinothalamic tract. Lateral spinothalamic tract. Now, next fiber or next pathway that will be involved here is the dorsal column medial lemniscal system. Here it will start from the skin surface or the receptor which is known as the Pacinian corpuscle. Pacinian corpuscle, from where the sensation will be carried by the A beta fiber and enter into the posterior horn or dorsal root. So this fiber is known as the A beta fiber. A beta fiber then from the dorsal horn, it will go upwards at the same side up to the medulla, up to the medulla. At the medulla, they will ended up in the nucleus known as the nucleus gracilis, nucleus cuneatus. So from nucleus gracilis and nucleus cuneatus, it will send signal to the ventroposterolateral nucleus of the thalamus to the opposite side. This is the thing that you need to remember. So from the medulla level, this fiber will send signal to the contralateral ventroposterolateral nuclei of the thalamus, not the ipsilateral side. And from the ventroposterolateral nuclei of the thalamus, it will end up into the primary somatosensory area 312. So this is the pathway of the dorsal column medial lemniscal system. So which one is the medial lemniscal here? This fiber, the fiber which traverses from the nucleus gracilis and nucleus cuneatus and end up in the opposite side ventroposterolateral nucleus of the thalamus. This part is known as the medial lemniscal system. Here it is the first order neuron. It is the first order neuron. This area is also first order neuron. Here it is the second order neuron, and third order neuron, of course, from the thalamus up to the cerebral cortex. So thalamocortical loop is the third order neuron here. Third order neuron here. So this is all about our dorsal column medial lemniscal system and lateral spinothalamic tract. So with this idea, let's go to the gate control theory. The theory which actually related with the pain alleviation system. Now, what happens at the spinal cord level, that we need to understand in the gate control theory. So let's draw a bigger size of the spinal cord so that we can understand it properly. Okay. So here suppose is the spinal cord, and of course it is the posterior horn, then anterior horn, and then posterior horn, and this is of course our spinal canal. Now the pain pathway start from the free nerve ending. So this is the free nerve ending, and it will go to the dorsal horn. From there, at the level of the substantia gelatinosa of the Rolando, it will go to the opposite side and send upward signal. So this is the lateral spinothalamic tract at the spinal cord level. And here what happens, our dorsal column medial lemniscal system, it will start from the Pacinian corpuscle via the A beta fiber. It will also enter into the dorsal horn. From there it will move upwards ipsilaterally. Now if you will be getting injured by a blunt object, immediately what you will do, you will rub or you will do gentle massage over this painful site so that the pain sensation will be reduced or alleviated. So this is the process by which our pain sensation can be reduced, and this is also known as the gate control theory. So gate control theory basically activated by rubbing or gentle massage of this affected side or painful side. So rubbing of that affected side will lead to activation of the Pacinian corpuscle, and this Pacinian corpuscle, after activation, it will generate the receptor potential. So receptor potential will be generated by rubbing the affected site and where Pacinian corpuscle is there, and this will produce receptor potential. It will carried by this A beta fiber and enter into the dorsal horn. After reaching the dorsal horn site, it will produce or it will activate an inhibitory interneuron. it will activate an inhibitory interneuron. So what is that inhibitory interneuron? This is the inhibitory interneuron, which is basically activated. Now, this inhibitory interneuron will be released which neurotransmitter? It will release enkephalin neurotransmitter. It will release enkephalin neurotransmitter. And this enkephalin will work on two sides. One at the presynaptic nerve terminal of the A delta C fiber and one over the postsynaptic cell bodies. These are the opioid receptor. These are the opioid receptor. These are the opioid receptor. Now, enkephalin will do what? Enkephalin will act on this receptor as well as on this receptor. And when it will act, or enkephalin will act on the opioid receptor at the presynaptic nerve terminal, it will decrease calcium ion influx. So decrease calcium ion influx, and calcium ion influx reduction will lead to decrease in the EPSP generation, decrease in the excitatory postsynaptic potential generation. That will lead to decrease the release of neurotransmitters such as glutamate and the substance P. And if there will be less release of glutamate and substance P, then no pain sensation will further move forward through the second order neuron. So by this process, the pain sensation can be reduced. On the other hand, when an enkephalin will work on the opioid receptor at the postsynaptic cell body, it will open the potassium channel. So potassium channel opening will be there, and that will lead to increase in the potassium ion efflux. So potassium ion efflux will occur. As a result of this, cell will be hyperpolarized. Cell will be hyperpolarized. So hyperpolarization of the cell will lead to less generation of the action potential. So there will be no or less generation of the action potential, and by this way also the pain sensation will not move forward upward to the higher cortex. So this is all about our gate control theory. Again, to summarize, first, after getting injured, if you rub that area, it will first activate the Pacinian corpuscle, and this Pacinian corpuscle will produce receptor potential. Receptor potential. This receptor potential will be travel through the A beta fiber of the dorsal column medial lemniscal system, and eventually it will enter into the dorsal horn. Now, at this site, at the level of the substantia gelatinosa of the Rolando, substantia gelatinosa of Rolando, at the level of the substantia gelatinosa of the Rolando, it will activate what? It will activate inhibitory interneuron. Inhibitory interneuron, which ultimately release enkephalin neurotransmitter. This enkephalin neurotransmitter will work at the presynaptic nerve terminal, over the opioid receptor and decrease calcium ion influx. As a result of this, there will be decrease in the excitatory postsynaptic potential and ultimately decrease release of the neurotransmitters, and no pain sensation will further be carried to the second order neuron. So second order neuron will not receive any neurotransmitter, and it will eventually block. On the other hand, at the postsynaptic cell body, it will work on the opioid receptor also, and this opioid receptor will do what? It will open the potassium channel. So potassium ion efflux will be there. And as a result of this, cell will be hyperpolarized. Cell will be hyperpolarized. And hyperpolarization of the cell will lead to decreased generation of the action potential in the second order neuron. In second order neuron. And as a result of this, the pain sensation will be reduced. As a result of this, of these two component, there will be reduced pain sensation. So as a result of this, there will be reduced pain sensation. So this is all about our gate control theory. Next, we will be discuss on the central pain inhibiting mechanism. To understand this central pain inhibiting mechanism, we have to draw again another diagram. So first, central pain inhibiting mechanism. What is that? Let's begin with the new diagram. Suppose it is the level of spinal cord. It is the level of the spinal cord. Here it is the level of the medulla. Here is the level of the pons, and here it is the midbrain. So again, it is the site of the midbrain, it is the pons, it is the medulla, and it is the level of the spinal cord. Now, normally what will happen? The pain sensation will start from the free nerve ending and it will travel through the first order neuron, and from the substantia gelatinous of the Rolando of the spinal cord, it will move to the opposite side and it will produce the spino-mesencephalic pathway and move through the medulla, then pons, then the midbrain up to the higher cortex. Now, at the level of the midbrain, it will send its collateral. At the level of the pons, it will send its collateral. And at the level of the midbrain, one important nucleus is there, which is known as the periaqueductal gray matter, periaqueductal gray cell bodies. It will first send its signal to the periaqueductal gray, and from there it will activate the inhibitory interneuron, which actually release enkephalin. Now this enkephalin, when it will release, it will inhibit the GABAergic neuron. It will inhibit the GABAergic neuron. Here it is the GABAergic neuron. GABAergic neuron. It is the inhibitory interneuron. Inhibitory interneuron. And this is the periaqueductal of the gray cell body. Now, when periaqueductal gray will release enkephalin, it will inhibit the GABAergic neuron. So if there will be no GABAergic neuron, then no GABA will release from the GABAergic neuron, then the glutaminergic neuron will be activated. From there, at the end, the glutaminergic neuron will be activated and it will send its signal at the level of the medulla. So here it is the glutamate. So it will be more activated. So first, the collateral will go to the periaqueductal gray matter and it will activate the inhibitory interneuron, and inhibitory interneuron eventually release enkephalin neurotransmitter, which actually inhibit the GABAergic neuron. So less release of GABA is there in the media, and as a result of this, there will be more release of the glutamate from the glutaminergic neuron. This glutaminergic neuron will send its signal at the level of the medulla. So at the level of the medulla, we have important nucleus which is known as raphe magnus. Raphe magnus. After getting the glutamate in the media, it will first activate the inhibitory interneuron. And this inhibitory interneuron will again release what neurotransmitter? Enkephalin. Now this enkephalin again will inhibit the GABAergic neuron. So here the GABA will be less released. So GABAergic neuron will be inhibited. And as a result of this raphe magnus nucleus ultimately will release what? It will release the serotonin, which is also known as 5-hydroxytryptamine. So serotonin or 5-hydroxytryptamine will be released from the raphe magnus nucleus, and it will come to the spinal cord level, from where it will again activate inhibitory interneuron. Now this inhibitory interneuron will release two neurotransmitters. Inhibitory interneuron will release again the enkephalin neurotransmitter at the presynaptic nerve terminal as well as over the postsynaptic cell body. So here the neurotransmitter is the enkephalin. So enkephalin will do what? Again, in the last video, we have seen that whenever enkephalin will work on the opioid receptor at the presynaptic nerve terminal, it will reduce the calcium ion entry and reduce in the excitatory postsynaptic potential or EPSP generation. So less calcium ion, if it is there, then less release of the neurotransmitters such as glutamate and substance P will be there, and as a result of this, the pain will not moving forward. On the other hand, when enkephalin will work on the postsynaptic cell body at the opioid receptor, it will also increase potassium ion efflux and cell will be hyperpolarized. Cell will be hyperpolarized, and as a result of this, no action potential will be generated. As a result of this, decrease action potential generation, and pain will not moving up to the cerebral cortex. So this is the action of the serotonin or the 5-hydroxytryptamine. This is the action of the serotonin or 5-hydroxytryptamine, which actually released from the raphe magnus nucleus by the action of the glutaminergic neuron, which is activated by the action of the periaqueductal gray matter inhibitory interneuron. On the other side, the spinomesencephalic, it is known as the spinomesencephalic tract. Spinomesencephalic tract. So this spinomesencephalic tract, when it will reach at the level of the pons, it will first activate the nucleus, which is known as the locus ceruleus. Locus ceruleus. This locus ceruleus will do what? It will release the norepinephrine. So norepinephrine will be released from this locus ceruleus, and this norepinephrine will directly act on the presynaptic nerve terminal as well as the over the postsynaptic cell bodies. So presynaptic nerve terminal as well as the postsynaptic cell body. And here which receptor is present? Here it is the alpha 2 receptor. So alpha 2 receptor is there at the presynaptic nerve terminal as well as at the postsynaptic cell bodies. So here it is the alpha 2 receptor. Here also it is the alpha 2 receptor. And we know this alpha 2 receptor has the similar action like the G protein coupled receptor, which has G alpha inhibitory action. So it has similar with the G alpha inhibitory action. As a result of this, it will prevent release of the neurotransmitters such as glutamate substance P, as well as it will generate inhibitory postsynaptic potential. So here there will be decreased excitatory postsynaptic potential, and here there will be increase in the inhibitory postsynaptic potential. So together these two action, the action potential will not be traversed to the second order neuron via this route, and ultimately it will not reach into the cerebral cortex, the primary somatosensory area 312, which is the pain perception area. So by this process, the pain sensation will be greatly alleviated or reduced. And this is all about our central pain inhibiting mechanism. Again, to summarize, when the pain fiber will traverse from the free nerve ending and carried by the A delta and C fiber, it will first reach at the dorsal horn substantia gelatinosa of the Rolando. From there, the second order neuron will start, and it is known as the spinomesencephalic tract, and go upwards up to the cerebral cortex. While going to upwards, it will first send its collateral signal at the level of the midbrain. And at the level of the midbrain, we have important cell which is known as the periaqueductal gray. And this periaqueductal gray activation by this collateral branch, it will activate eventually the inhibitory interneuron. This inhibitory interneuron will release enkephalin neurotransmitter, and this enkephalin neurotransmitter ultimately block this GABAergic neuron. And when there is less GABA, then the glutaminergic neuron will be activated from the periaqueductal gray. So glutamate will more release, and it will ultimately reach at the level of the medulla, where we have Raphe-Magnus nucleus, and this Raphe-Magnus nucleus will be stimulated, and it will again produce or activate the inhibitory interneuron, and this inhibitory interneuron will release enkephalin neurotransmitter, and this enkephalin again will block the GABAergic neuron, and as there will be less GABA, it will ultimately release the 5-hydroxytryptamine or the serotonin. So 5-hydroxytryptamine or the serotonin will be released ultimately from this Raphe-Magnus nucleus at the level of the medulla, and when it will reach at the level of the spinal cord, it will first activate the inhibitory interneuron, which again release enkephalin neurotransmitter. Now this enkephalin neurotransmitter will work on the two sides, at the presynaptic nerve terminal over the opioid receptor, and one over the cell body at the postsynaptic nerve terminal. At the presynaptic nerve terminal, when it will work on the opioid receptor, it will decrease calcium ion influx into the cell, and as a result of this, there will be less excitatory postsynaptic potential, and that will lead to decreased release of the neurotransmitter. So no neurotransmitter will lead to no afferent sensation carried by the second order neuron. This is the one way. On the other side, enkephalin will work on the postsynaptic cell body, and it will open the potassium ion channel, and potassium ion efflux will be there, and that will lead to hyperpolarization of the cell, and no action potential will generate. So no action potential will traverse to the spinomesencephalic neuron or tract up to the cerebral cortex. On the other side, when the sensation will reach at the pons, it will produce a collateral, and this collateral eventually activate the locus coeruleus nucleus. This locus coeruleus nucleus, when it will activate, it will release the norepinephrine neurotransmitter. So norepinephrine neurotransmitter will do what? It will directly work over the presynaptic nerve terminal and the postsynaptic cell body. So presynaptic nerve terminal, when it will work, they will work basically the alpha-2 receptor over the alpha-2 receptor, and this is also a type of G-protein coupled receptor which has action similar with the G-alpha inhibitory. So G-alpha inhibitory action will lead to decreased calcium ion influx as well as decrease in the excitatory postsynaptic potentiation, leading to decreased release of the neurotransmitter. So less sensation will traverse to the second order neuron. On the other side, when it will work on the alpha 2 receptor at the postsynaptic cell body, it will open the potassium channel, and also there will be influx of the chloride channel, and as a result of this, there will be generation of the inhibitory postsynaptic potentiation. So inhibitory postsynaptic potentiation can be generated either by the increased potassium ion efflux. So increased potassium ion efflux, this is the one way by which inhibited postsynaptic potential can be generated, or there will be influx of the chloride ion. So chloride ion influx will also occur, and as a result of this, cell will be hyperpolarized. And if there will be hyperpolarization of the cell, that no fun in telling that there will be less production of the action potential or no generation of the action potential, and less action potential will traverse to the second order neuron up to the lateral lemniscal pathway. So by this process, the central pain sensation will be alleviated. So this is the process by which our central side or central like midbrain pons and medulla level, the neurotransmitter that are released, they actually help to reduce the pain sensation. So this is all about our pain relieving mechanism. Hope you will enjoy this tutorial session. Thank you.